You are a good thing. Stop letting people, TV, men, etc. define you. God gave you the victory over everything the devil was trying to get you to think about. I learned that God goes above and beyond, and we cannot even try to guess the plans that He has for us, that we are not the author of our story. God is. Because faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the convictions of things not seen. And if you're waiting to be able to see the end result before you make a move, you're not moving on faith. The purpose is not a position or a job or a title. Purpose is a posture. God is going to take you on a journey, and it's not going to make sense now. Baby, when that thing clicks, you're going to see that it was all a part of the process. Be you, shine bright, and stay holy. And if that's not possible, then baby, take that up with God. Hello, holy people. Well, welcome back. We are in the month of October, and we are here for another episode of the Thoughts and Testimonies Podcast. And as mentioned, we are going to be diving a little bit into our fears, the things that hold us back, the things that kind of keep us from walking in our purpose and walking in our calling. And so I am very excited today to have a special guest with us, a special guest that surprised me in my circle, but I'm so glad that we are having this conversation. And I know that a lot of you all, as you've asked me questions, I have even started a podcast, a lot of the questions centered around technology, around fear of putting yourself out there and, being in the forefront of a lot of things. So we got an expert on the topic. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest. So for over 2 decades, Michael Pope Jr. thrived in the realm of IT, embodying the quintessential success story. While he excelled as an IT professional, Michael recognized that the most pressing challenges in the workplace were not technological, but human-centric. And we are going to dive more into that today because I'm very interested in learning more about that. But this realization sparked a transformative journey, shifting his focus from being a software developer to a developer of people. Michael sought wisdom and expertise truly from the best of the best, from global luminaries in leadership and neuropsychology. He undertook intensive training and certifications under the guidance of renowned leadership author John C. Maxwell and eminent neuropsychologist Dr. Joseph McClendon III. Not only is Michael out here doing the thing and achieving top-tier certifications, but he also rapidly extended to faculty and teaching roles within these very esteemed institutions, garnering all the applause, all the recognition. So I'm telling y'all, we are very blessed, okay, in this ways. With the renewed purpose, Michael set forth on a mission to empower organizations and individuals to navigate both their technological and leadership challenges. He has a holistic approach of blending tech savviness with leadership insights, and this truly has been a game changer for so many people. So he is, as of today, the CEO of Michael Pope Training LLC, and he seamlessly juggles all of his high-ranking IT roles with conducting very impactful workshops and presentations. So he truly has a very unique ability to demystify technology and make it accessible. He has earned him the affectionate title, the Coach's Tech Guy. Okay, I was very interested in this. The Coach's Tech Guy. We got him here today. Beyond these professional accomplishments, he is married to his wife, Sonia, for over 26 years. That's a blessing in itself. We're going to have to talk about that. And together they find joy in raising their 3 sons in Ohio. So it is my hope and it is my prayer, and I am sure that it's going to happen, that today we're going to hear a little bit more about Michael's story and be a witness to the testament of the power of self-reflection, resilience, and the journey from feeling like an imposter to taking decisive action. So welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Maya, and thank you for that warm, beautiful introduction.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here, honored to be on your show.
I am honored too. I'm honored that you have been in so many rooms that people can only think and dream about. And so I'm thankful that you're taking the time to share your story with us and empower us in a way. So I'm very, very excited. But as I mentioned, when I first saw the coach's tech guy, I said, now, what is the coach's tech guy about to come on Thoughts and Testimony and talk about? So I want to dive a little bit into that. I want to talk about the start of your journey, and you've had a very successful career in IT. How did you get into this field, and how did you become known as the coach's IT guy?
Yeah, so I'll take you back to my start of software development. So I've been a software developer for the last 28 years, but I actually got interested in technology and computers back when I was in the seventh grade. My first computer was a Commodore 64 computer. I ended up writing my first program in the seventh grade, and I submitted it into this magazine, Commodore Gazette magazine. And
Mm-hmm.
they paid me $300 for that program. And as a seventh grader, that
What?
felt like $1,000,000. And I was like, wow, I could actually make money writing software, doing something that I love doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that moving forward, I graduated with a computer science degree and been work for the same company for 28 years as a software developer, loving it at the beginning and still enjoying it. But I
Mm-hmm.
quickly realized that that God has called me for more, right? You write software and it's great and I enjoy it, but I really wasn't changing any lives.
Mm-hmm.
And during my journey of overcoming imposter syndrome and some of the other things I know we'll talk about, I realized I learned about the world of personal development
Mm-hmm.
and people in the space of personal development, people like the Joseph McClennans and the Les Browns and John Maxwell's, they impacted my life, which made me want to go and do the same for other people.
Yeah. That's powerful. And so many people, they go to their work 9 to 5 and they just, kind of do what they do, but they're not feeling fulfilled. So I think that's beautiful that you felt that realization. Like, I feel like I could be doing so much more. Like, I could
Hmm.
be inspiring. I could let God use me.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit more about what that was that you realized in the workplace. So you had said that, you recognized the most pressing challenges in the workplace weren't technological, but they were people. And we know people be people in and out here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
So
what does that mean to you? But I also know that you delved into this world of like neuropsychology, and I've never heard of that before. So walk me through a little bit of that realization for
yeah,
you.
right. So it's a whole lot to it. But really what I realized was, so when I first started my career in software, I went into it very confident in what I did from a technology standpoint. However, on the inside, my self-worth was miserable, right? I had a horrible
Mm,
self-image. I didn't like public speaking, and I really didn't like people. So I was your typical IT person where you could give me a problem to do. I would sit in the corner not talking to anybody at all, Maya, and I felt
yeah.
very comfortable doing that.
Hmm.
However, I quickly realized that in order for me to really grow as a software developer in the IT world, I had to learn how to deal with people. And I remember I ran into an entrepreneur back in 1997 named Percy. And he was about 6'1", full of confidence, great with dealing with people. And I remember when I asked him, I said, "Hey, Percy, how are you able to be so confident with dealing with people?"
Hmm.
And he just looked at me and smiled. And he recommended a book to me. And so, to be honest with you, Maya, at that time in '97, I hadn't read a whole book probably in forever. Like even graduating high school and college, I never read a book from cover to cover.
Hmm.
And the first time he called to check on me, he said, "Hey, Michael, this is Percy that's checking in on you." I gave him tons of excuses of why I hadn't read that book. And then he challenged me. He said, "Michael, hey, do you think you can read at least one chapter?" And I said, "Well, sure, I can read one chapter in a week." So he told me to go grab the book, and he said, "Turn to chapter 2, and I want you to read the title to me just so I know you have the book." So I opened up the book, and it was actually this book right here, Magic of Thinking Big. So I always keep it close to me. Chapter 2 is Cure Yourself of Excuse-itis, the Failure Disease.
Oh, he came
So
for you.
just hearing the title, like it smacked me on the face, right?
Yeah.
And so I read that and I started to realize that every failure in my life was a direct result of the excuses I've been making.
Mm,
And that introduced me to personal development. And as he gave me more books and had me listen to other speakers, it started growing me. And then I started realizing that, man, I owe it to other people to really to help other people overcome this, because there's so many people who are hurting, who really don't believe in themselves, and they don't have that confidence. I owe it to them to really start helping them develop themselves as people.
Mm.
And so that really got me into it. However, I still had my fear of public speaking. So I joined Toastmasters, and I've been an actually active member in Toastmasters for the last 20 years, working on my speaking and communication skills, which eventually led me to finding out about the John Maxwell team and joining them to be a certified speaker, trainer, and coach. And because I was doing that, but I joined the Maxwell team with the heart of wanting to help people.
Mm-hmm.
That opened up an opportunity for me to be asked to join their faculty team. So a paid position with the Maxwell team. And then that work led me to being introduced to Joseph McClendon and doing some work with him and being asked to be a part of his paid faculty team as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then other connections and gave me opportunity to meet Les Brown. So it's just doing what I've been called to do, being willing to do it, is just opening up doors. But it all started with me accepting the challenge to grow myself personally.
Mm. I think that is so powerful. Even just hearing you talk right now, you had said, you got in it with the perspective or with the goal of wanting to better other people. And I think
Yes.
too many times people feel like, well, I want to, seek out this opportunity. I want to seek out this leadership opportunity because I want to be the person in the middle stage, right? I want to be the person to be seen. And so it's very powerful to hear that, you didn't fall into that trap. You hear names like, Toastmasters, or you hear names like John Maxwell, you're like, okay, I'm in this room, but you're, still very grounded to say, I know what my goal is, and it's for doing other people. And I think that that's something that God often rewards, and he often, once you show God that you're able to be trusted with a few things, he gonna make you master of a lot of things, and especially when it comes to his people. So
Yes.
what do you say to people who are still so paralyzed in that fear of the excuses, right? Like, I know I could be doing so much better, but I don't even know if I want to take the first step of signing up for, a John Maxwell course. Like, I don't even know what to do with that. What would you say to them?
Yeah. Well, first off, so since you're a Christian, right? So I give him the Christian answer because, right? Obviously, God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but a
Mm-hmm.
power of love and a sound mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it really comes down to really getting clarity with people and finding out exactly what do they want.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a lot of cases, they'll lead with the fears, but then you got to stop them, right? You almost be like, no, no, no. I didn't ask you about what you're afraid of. What do you want? And getting them to gain clarity on that. Okay, what do you want and why do you want it? And you get that clarity, it's going to help remove the fears.
Yeah.
I know for me personally, once I came up with my list of reasons why I wanted to do certain things, it's like the fear really just didn't really matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like if my family was in a burning building and I had to run into it to get, if the only way they could survive is for me to go in there, the fear wouldn't matter, right? I would do whatever I had to do to get into that building and save them. And that's kind of how you have to do with your whatever thing is stopping you right now. Is like, got to get over the fear. I mean, life is too short to allow fear to keep us back. Of all
I know
things, I
that's
mean, there's
right.
there's so many other things going on in this world. It's like you don't let fear be one of the things that stop you when you get older and be like, oh, I could have done a whole lot, but I was afraid.
Mm-hmm. I know
Really?
that's right.
Yeah.
That is powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful. So you had, mentioned very briefly, all these doors that God has opened for you just by your initial yes, just by you, showing up, being committed to your goals every single day. You mentioned a few of the names, that you've had the privilege to be able to be in contact with, be mentored by, right? Like John
Yes.
Maxwell, Joseph McClendon. So what role did your mentors have in shaping you to where you are now? Is this very powerful speaker, this very powerful coach. And then what did you learn about yourself under their mentorship?
Yeah, so really, in my early days of just even when I was working with Percy and some of the other mentors in my life, the role that they played for me was just being a door opener for me in terms of
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and other people. Obviously, they couldn't necessarily introduce me to a John Maxwell or anybody like that at the time. However, they could introduce me to a book by John Maxwell or an audio. So I used to listen to old cassette tapes, and then you can download everything, right? But so you just but I remember like Persh would always give me audio programs. Say, hey, here's a CD by John Maxwell. Listen to this. This will answer your question. Here's something by Les Brown. Listen to this, and just listening to those really helped transform me. Like that personal growth has been amazing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But then it also, whenever I would listen to those other speakers, I would hear how they were helping other people and how they would say, hey, my greatest victory is when I help you succeed and different things. Then I'm like, oh, wow, it's more rewarding to give of yourself versus trying to take, right? I'm not going to be a go getter all the time. Sometimes I'm going to be a go giver and give myself away to people. And I started doing that on a regular basis, and it's been instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of what I'm learning, so since I've been in those closed doors, so as an example, right? So we're approaching October, in October timeframe now, but next month in November, I'm going to be at Joseph McClendon's home for his 70th birthday.
Wow.
I was invited with a group of people to go celebrate his 70th birthday with him. And that's an amazing opportunity. I'm very thankful for that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just because I've been willing to learn from mentors, but also do what they recommend that I do.
Mm.
I see a lot of people they'll study certain people, but they won't do what the person recommends all the time. Like they'll
That's
question it.
good. Yeah.
And I'm big on saying, okay, if you tell me to do it, I'm going to do it because I'm going to trust that what you're telling me is correct.
Yeah.
And it does work in my life. Like one of the things that Joseph helped me realize through his neuroencoding process and working with him is the importance of, well, two things really. One is the importance of doing affirmations on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So to the point where it's like, if I walk and see a mirror and I look at myself, I give myself a big smile and I'll say either out loud or even in my head now, hey, Michael, you are amazing. You look absolutely amazing today. Today is going to be a great day. And I'll say different affirmations to myself just to not necessarily pump myself up because I don't really need that anymore, but just to really reinforce who I am.
Yeah.
And doing that with scriptures and all type of stuff as well. So I'll do that. But then also Joseph talks about how on a daily basis, you should be celebrating yourself.
Mm.
It's a lot of us will reach the end of the week and we'll say, well, I didn't do this week. I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
Mm.
Instead, we should say, hey, I did this. I did that. Like celebrate, Pat. Thank you, Lord, for giving me the opportunity to serve that person, right? Maybe I only worked with 5 clients this week, but hey, Lord, thank you for blessing me with those 5 people in my life. And just celebrating those little things on a regular basis because it's amazing. It's amazing difference when you celebrate versus complain about what you didn't do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny you say that. So I'm in this, I started this mentorship program at work. So I work at the community college and I work in our outreach and recruitment. But they started this, it's a very long program, but they started this program for helping women get into leadership roles eventually at the community college. So they'll partner you with vice presidents, and it's for a whole 9 months. We do professional development every month. And so this first month, we talked about Strengths Quest. We, went through Gallup and
Oh,
Clifton.
yeah.
We did all that again. But the facilitator who was facilitating the workshop, and that's the very first time, I've heard someone put it in that perspective. She said, a lot of times we focus on, saying we have strengths and we have weaknesses. But she said, we don't have that's not how it is, that we should be focused more so on our strengths. A lot of people say, oh, focus on your weaknesses and, really be in tune with that. But she said, no, like focus on the things that you're good at, nourish
Mm-hmm.
those things that you're good at, and everything else is going to fall into place. Like you don't necessarily have, something you're bad at or something you're weak at. That's just who you are, right?
Yeah,
And I thought that was so powerful, so even hearing you
that
say
is.
that about pouring into yourself definitely hits home, because I was a person to be like, oh sis, you're slacking in this area. Like, well, we gotta work on this, but now I could be like, it's not that I'm ignoring the weakness, but I'm really focused on these are the things that I do well. Let me, get in the flow with that. And that also encourages me. That also, builds my self-esteem and my
Mm-hmm.
confidence when I'm constantly telling myself, there are things that you are good at,
Yeah.
So I think that's really powerful.
And that's great that
Mhm.
she has you all work, focusing on your strengths, because that is so important. I
Mhm.
mean, the way I've heard it is you can always hire out your weakness. I mean,
Mhm.
unless it's a weakness that you really need, hire it out, but focus on your strengths. I mean, athletes do that all the time, right? It's like
Yeah.
if I'm a sprinter, I am going to work on increasing my speed. I'm not going to work on like the other things that I'm not good at. I'm going to focus on getting faster.
Right.
That's your goal.
Right. That is so powerful. Ooh, that's very good. Um, I want to acknowledge something you had said earlier about your mentors and how they introduced you to other opportunities. I think that is very freeing for myself, but also freeing for other people. And I had did an earlier podcast about this, just even when I thought about the idea of doing a podcast in my head, I was like, looking at all these YouTube people and I'm like, well, I need this equipment. I need what they got going on. I need this guest speaker, and I was already, going up there.
Comparison
And that
game.
was, yes, that was so overwhelming. And I think even that in itself paralyzed me so much from just doing the
Mm.
thing. Like all God asked me to do was just start talking to the microphone and posting it, right? He didn't tell me to have this elaborate lights, camera, action. I need a producer. I need a videographer. He didn't tell me. He just
He
said to
didn't
do
say
the
speak
thing.
perfectly into the camera, right?
Listen, like, so, and I think a lot of people, from what society is telling us, you need to be the very best that you can be. I think it's really freeing to hear for you that like you just started it, and as you took that step, your mentors were able to pour into you what you needed. You took away what you needed from them, and then that obedience opened up a next door. That we don't gotta have it all together, but maybe one day, we will be in, my superstars Beyonce. Maybe one day I'll touch elbows with Beyonce and be in her living room.
Exactly, right? Yeah, you never know, right?
That's awesome. So I want to dive in a little bit more into your book. So I got your book
Oh,
and
okay,
I
awesome. Well,
have
thank
it
you. All
all,
right.
listen, all over here.
Oh,
There
look
were
at
so
that.
many, so many golden tips. I got it color coded and organized. So
Look at that.
you you came out with your book, Gadget's Guide to Marketing, and you had, your subtitle was "Don't Let the Fear of Technology Stop You from Marketing Yourself as a Coach or as a speaker." So I want to first talk about, so what are some of the reasons that you have found that people are so afraid to dive into the realm of technology and to market themselves?
Yeah, so one is there's so many options out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when I became a dad for the first time and I had to go to the store and I was looking at like baby bottles. You go into like a Babies R Us back in the day and there was like a million and one different types of baby bottles. You're like, I just want one. I don't know which one to get. Well, that's how a
Yes.
lot of coaches feel. They're like, okay, there's so many different platforms, even for
Mm-hmm.
like hosting a meeting. Like, should I use Zoom? Should I use Google Meet? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they feel overwhelmed because people are always saying, that's a good platform or that's a good platform. But it's like, and they're like, which one is the best? Well, it really depends. And they can't get a concrete answer. And I feel like that paralyzes people because they're waiting for the right answer. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like people who won't start a podcasting show because they're like, well, I've got to get the right software. What's the best software out there? And,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to look at like the people who have the highest numbers thinking that their software is the key or their microphone is the key. Well, it's not that. That
Mm-hmm.
could be part of it, but don't get overwhelmed with so many different options. Really, just like
Mm-hmm.
pick one that's easy for you to use and that you can keep using,
Mm-hmm.
just to keep it simple to get started.
That's powerful. I often say all the time that, particularly my generation, I feel like that as we are navigating social media and as we're ingesting the things that the media says, it is very rare that I've run into a person of my generation who doesn't have a side hustle, who doesn't have a business. I feel like that's just,
Hmm.
this hustle mentality, this grind that we're constantly told about. And even my family members, who've started their businesses and things. But I also know that there are a lot of people from older generations who maybe have never tapped into their passions or things that they feel like they could be good at out of fear of navigating the technology. We hear about this algorithm, we hear
Hmm.
about all these things, and they're like, I don't know if I could win.
I might do it
Uh,
wrong. Yeah.
yeah, you may do it wrong. So, I just want you to talk a little bit about some of the myths that you've seen in that journey, and how have you, in your role as the coach's tech guy, been working to demystify those things to encourage people?
Yeah. So like another myth is, like, which, people are struggle like, do I have to be on all the social media platforms, or which one is the best for my business? And they struggle with that. So a
Mhm.
lot of times what I'll do, Maya, when I have a client come to me and they're feeling overwhelmed with technology and trying to figure out how to best market themselves and really get started, then I'll stop them and find out back to that question of, what do you want? So what is your ultimate goal to do? And find out what they want and identify the reasons and make sure it's really what they want. And then we'll look at what they already have. So, like, what
Mhm.
software have you purchased? Because I noticed there's a lot of coaches come to me and they've got software that does the exact same thing. It's a different name because maybe they took this free challenge over here and they recommended this
Mhm.
software. And they took another challenge, they
Mhm.
recommended some different software. I'm like, these two pieces of software do almost the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of what we don't need, and then let's learn how to properly use what you have,
Mhm.
because I'm all about helping clients be more productive with the software that they have. I don't
Mhm.
think there's any such thing as one right software for people to do anything. There's so many options nowadays, and they're constantly being improved upon.
Mhm.
But it goes back to, what do you want? Like, what are we actually trying to accomplish? Like, if your goal is just to schedule social media posts, then okay, let's figure out what's the best social media scheduler for you to use that you feel comfortable using, and let's get things scheduled so you can get some quick wins right away. What you're doing.
You are preaching to me right now. Let me tell you, that has been my life over the last 2 weeks of me traveling, and I was like, "I need to figure this out. I can't keep stopping my life to post these previews." So absolutely.
Yeah, so like even like with videos, right? You can schedule your
Yes.
videos on all the platforms. Just schedule them in advance.
Mhm.
Take 2 weeks off, and then your social media, your scheduler is working for you.
Absolutely. I had to release the spirit of perfectionism
Yes,
very early. I can't.
done is better than perfect. Yes.
Yes. You have, so there's two chapters in your book, Your Gadget's Guide to Marketing. The first one that really resonated with me was identifying your target audience. I
Yes.
remember when I first started this podcast, I was convinced. I was like, everybody, this podcast is going to be for everybody. And it took a beautiful, loving slap down from my husband to be like, sis, you first off, this is a Christian podcast. There's not everybody in the world is Christian. I know you want them
Yeah.
to
So you
be,
so
but
you
not
narrow it
everyone.
down there. Yeah.
And then he was like, the way that you talk and your personality, not everybody is going to be attracted to that. And it hit me hard. Like, I felt like a failure because not everybody's going to like it. But so it was very freeing when you were just talking about, one of those keys to success is figuring out who your audience is and not
Mhm.
wasting your time, trying to please everybody. Do you want to speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, that's so important, and it's so freeing too, because
Mhm.
you can realize that, okay, right, you post something on social media, and maybe your family, the people you love the most, don't like it. They don't heart it. They're not commenting. They may not be your target audience. That doesn't mean they don't love you. So I think a lot of people, you have to separate kind of like what you do as a entrepreneur in this space with who you are. And
Mhm.
and I think because a lot of people, especially a lot of non-Christians, don't know who they are, they struggle with that piece, and they feel like if I put out a piece of content and no one likes it, or only a few people like it, they see that as a reflection on themselves, which
Mm-hmm.
you really shouldn't. But
Mm-hmm.
once you have that clarity on who your audience is, it allows you to it tailors your creativity, your content, your posts towards that particular audience. And the
Mm-hmm.
beauty behind it is they're going to quickly raise their hand and say, yeah, you're speaking to me. Go ahead. I love that. Right. Keep going. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop posting, they'll let you know, hey, I haven't seen anything from you in a while.
They
Like, where you
will.
been? Are you okay? Sis, you okay?
They
Right.
will. They will.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the other points in your book, again, let me tell you, I have so many that I was just like, this is so
Oh, thank
good.
you.
I'm gonna go back and read. But one that I know my audience is probably feeling is, okay, we finally convinced ourselves God's called me to do something deeper. I finally got over my fear. I'm going to do the thing,
Mm-hmm.
I've taken Michael's advice and I'm using technology to, kind of make it a little bit easy for me, get my productivity, get in the flow of things. But then where do the people come from? How do I start to make money? Right. And so one of the things you break down in here is something called the cash model, which is my
Yes.
first time hearing something like this, and so how do we, go from I'm doing this as a hobby to now I want to start making some cash off of this thing? How do we go from that?
Yeah, so you've already got a podcast, right? So what the cash model
Mm-hmm.
stands for, the C is for complimentary. And so that could be doing something like a complimentary podcast like you have
Mm-hmm.
right here. It could be a free webinar or workshop. It may be a free downloadable PDF digital product or something.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's you adding value to people, which, creates, increases your credibility with them and your trust with them. Because they're like, man, she gave me this for free or he gave me that for free. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder what the next level is. I'm willing to invest with them. And so the cash model works great. I mean, and a lot of people have participated in something similar. Maybe you
Yeah.
see an advertisement on Instagram, you click on a link for it to download, hey, 5 tips for XYZ. You
Mm-hmm.
download that. Typically on the thank you page, it's going to say, hey, thanks for downloading my 5 tips on XYZ. I have a special offer for you. It's limited time. It's going to expire in 59 seconds or whatever, 59 minutes or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you can spend $27 and you can get this digital product that complements the digital product you just downloaded. And it's only $27. And you're like, well, yeah, I can do that, right? And then people will pay that. That's more that affordable model. And they get used to spending a little bit of money with you.
Yeah.
And what happens is if they're willing to spend a little bit of money for you, it's easy for them to move up to the next level to spend more money with you if
Mm-hmm.
you have something of value to give them.
Mm.
And it works really well. And the thing is, we do it on a regular basis. I mean, I know I do it with, I think about when I used to walk through the mall and how, like at a Chinese restaurant or something, they would always have that sample, right? I can be
Mm-hmm.
thinking about, I want to eat, I'm thinking about eating a burger, but I see some food over here. I'm like, okay, well, I'll take a sample.
Mm-hmm.
That chicken, so, okay, oh, I like that. Let me go in and buy some of that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what happens. And so that cash model, so the C is complimentary, A is for affordable, S is for a series. And so a series could be like a group membership that you have going on, or a multi-week, multi-session mastermind, or a
Mm-hmm.
group program you've got going on. Maybe it costs a little bit more, but that's kind of that series of that recurring type of income you're getting in. And then H is for the high ticket. And this might be your $3,000 coaching program, your $10,000 coaching program, whatever that next level is for you. But that's more the high ticket. And I started coming up with that because it worked great for me. But what I realized, Maya, there's a lot of, like, especially in the coaching industry, a lot of coaches would get in and they hear, oh, you got to have this high ticket offer. And some of them have never really coached people before, or even if they have, they've never really charged for it. So it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
say, I've got this package for $3,000 and they're feeling all this pressure of trying to sell it, but no one knows if they're good or not, good enough yet, right? And they're like, I don't even know who you are, and you want me to give you $3,000 of my hard-earned money?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no. But if you've added value, so essentially what it is a value ladder, right? So if you've been
Yeah.
adding value along the way with them, it's easy for them to invest with you.
Mm. So I wanna park there because that is so powerful. And I think a lot of the times people who are entrepreneurs or who are, taking the journey of betting on themselves, too many times we either try to skip the free part, we start charging people, ridiculous amounts of stuff and we don't even know what you got, or we undervalue, ourselves.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if you can speak to how do we find that balance within ourselves of knowing what our worth is and, walking confidently in what our worth is when we're
Yeah.
putting our product out there.
Yeah. So say one thing is you have to separate, in my opinion, separate your worth from the value of your product.
Hmm.
Right? It's like, um, because even the way you said that, it's like if I understand that I'm a child of God, I understand that I'm priceless, right? It's like I'm creating God's image and all of that. So I've got to completely separate that from a
Yeah.
value of a coaching program or a product or service that I'm offering.
Hmm.
So separate the two first off. And then ask yourself, okay, what price would you pay for this service? So if you were an outsider looking in and you needed this problem solved, if Maya solves a problem on help me overcome mental health or help me to improve my go to the next level in my leadership at my job, right? To get a promotion on my job. If that's the problem that Maya solves, then I got to say, well, if I was in a situation where I was looking for that promotion, how much would I be willing to invest in it?
Yeah.
And so it's like that'll help you come up with a dollar amount.
Hmm.
Because if I'm trying to offer a $3,000 coaching program, but I couldn't see myself paying $3,000 for a similar solution,
Hmm.
then it's like there's a conflict there, right? Because like I don't believe in my own product if I wouldn't pay that amount in it,
Yeah.
and I think you have to work on that.
That is good. That is powerful. I want some people to take note of that. No shade, Prove it. Absolutely. And I think it's also freeing to know that, one day you will get there, right?
Yes.
And as you start to refine your craft and get more confident in yourself and understanding the value. I think that's the hardest piece, maybe, is you understanding what you are putting out there in the world, you
Mhm.
understanding the gap. Like, this isn't just another podcast. There is something special about this podcast, right? It's not
Yes.
just another, business, no, another product that you're selling on Instagram. This isn't just another t-shirt company that you're doing, right? That once you figure out what that thing is, you can start, that could be a part of the story that you're telling other people, and people are going to, invest in that story. So I think that is absolutely freeing. So thank you for that. That was
Yes.
that's a golden nugget from you. I'm just here for it. So I hear, in a lot of the other spaces that you have spoken in and done in, I've been following you, I've been watching you. Uh, that there's this journey from being a dreamer to being a doer, right?
Yes.
I know a lot of people who have a lot of amazing thoughts, and I'm like, okay, but when we gonna start acting on this? So I'm wondering if you could just take us on that journey. What is that journey of from being a dreamer to being a doer?
Yeah. So let's face it, man. A lot of people do have big dreams, but they're not really taking action. So the
Mhm.
whole door acrostic, I actually did a keynote. I actually did a keynote on Joseph McClendon's stage called "Becoming Being a Doer," hour
Mhm.
long keynote where I broke down. I used doer as an acrostic, and
Mhm.
so the D in doer stands for discipline. And so
Mm.
one of the things that Joseph says that discipline is doing the prescribed activity no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult.
Mm.
And so it's like so that's really the first thing once you understand what you're trying to accomplish, you've got to be willing to apply that discipline towards it.
Mhm.
And I love Joseph's quote because that no matter what, even and especially when it's difficult, because let's face it, a lot of times it is going to be difficult. It's difficult to be disciplined and do what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
But what that means is if I'm working with my mentor and my mentor says, "Hey, you need to read this chapter here, listen to this audio, and make 5 calls," then I need to discipline myself to do it. If I truly believe in my dreams, or I truly want to hit my dreams, I've got to be willing to do that work. And so that's the discipline part of it.
Mhm.
Then O in the acrostic stands for opportunity focused, and this is huge is it's really just keeping your eyes open for opportunities. It's more of that I can do it type of attitude where you hear something, you're like, oh man, I know a solution for that. And you're just constantly looking for those opportunities. And then also you're making people aware of the opportunities you're looking for. Right? Like even the reason why I'm on your show is because I posted on social media saying I was looking to get on X number of podcasts before the end of the year. And your mom saw it and she's like, hey, you need to talk to my daughter, right? It's like,
She did.
yeah, right. So that's just being opportunity focused, but you got to let people know that you're looking for those opportunities.
Yeah.
And like if I'm looking for paid speaking opportunities or paid coaching opportunities, I can't keep it a secret.
Yeah.
I have to be opportunity focused, but also take the action to put it out there. Then E endure, and E varies depending on the audience I'm talking to, but a lot of times, especially when it comes to dreams, is eliminating excuses. And that's huge. And so that's why it always goes back to the book here, Magic of Thinking Big, how excuse-itis is a failure disease. But it's all about just eliminating the excuses from your life.
Yeah.
And that's tough for a lot of people to do. But in reality, if you just let go of the excuses and just do it, it's really just take ownership of it and say, okay, well, this is what I'm thinking. This could potentially be an excuse. I'm just going to eliminate that and undo it anyway, right? Do it afraid or ask for help if you need it, but just eliminate the excuses. Don't even let those words come out your mouth. Find some other words to replace them with, but just eliminate the excuses. And then the R endure is all about responsibility. And for this, it's more a personal responsibility. I believe as someone who's going from just a dreamer to a doer to really an achiever, is you have to take personal responsibility in your character, your attitude, and in your personal development. I can't rely on anybody else to really give me the proper attitude. I have to focus on my attitude every single day. When I wake up in the morning through affirmations, reading the word, all that type of stuff, whatever, right? It's putting me in the right mindset of I can do it attitude, positive outlook on a regular basis. I'm the only person who can control my character. That's completely up to me, right? Who I am when no one's looking, right? That's so important, but it's up to me. It's my personal responsibility. And then my personal development. Like no one can read for me or force me to do something in personal development. I have to take ownership of it. So if I'm looking to grow, go to that next level, and if it requires a certain skill or certain knowledge, I have to take the personal responsibility of studying to go to that next level. Because let's face it, if you go too early and you're not prepared, it's going to crumble. I've seen that happen that's happened with athletes who weren't ready to go to that next level, and they just, they couldn't handle it mentally because they hadn't grown into it.
Yeah.
Entertainers, that happens if they haven't grown themselves to understand finances and business and all that type of stuff, whatever, it crumbles because they're not ready.
That is powerful. That's a whole word that could preach itself. Ooh, because too many times we want to skip steps. And even when we think about Joseph's journey, in the Bible, like if he would have went straight to the palace, who would have known what would have happened? That palace would have been turned up.
Exactly, right?
He had to go through a few steps to get there. That is really good.
Yeah.
I like what you said about asking about the opportunities, the O endure, because that's something that I'm not good at. I am not good at saying this is what I need. I'm not good at asking because in my head, I'm like, well, I look like a beggar, or, these people going to be out here thinking that I'm just struggling because I have to ask. But the way that you phrased it, that it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to network. It's an opportunity to grow. And people can't read your mind. People don't know, that we're looking for, XYZ or whatever we're looking for. So I really like the way that you worded that. And truly, this is absolutely, as you said, an example of that. My mom was on the podcast early, so y'all already know she's a networker. She very much is a networker, and I'm so grateful for this. And I told you before we started that I wasn't sure how we were gonna make the connection. And I prayed about it, and the more God just kept depositing into me questions to ask you, I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. Like this is gonna be,
and the time's gonna fly by, right?
Yes, and to think that this all happened just because it started with a post from you. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
So I want to wrap up a little bit.
Okay.
And when I had, when you reached out about doing the podcast and I kind of sent you a few questions, there was one question that just kept me up. It kept
Mm,
me up. I kept thinking about it. And I was like, this is so powerful. And I felt like it was very similar to how I felt when I started this podcast. And so I asked you, why now? Like, why do you want to share your testimony? Why do you want to share your thoughts? And you had brought up First Peter 4:11. So I'm going to read that really quick. And it's, if anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength that God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. So why is it so important to you? First off, share what that verse means to you, but why it was so important for you to walk in the calling that God gave you and share your testimony.
yeah. So first off, the 411. My birthday is April 11th, so 411. So that's kind of how I found it one day on my birthday, when I was reading through and I prayed, asking God to show me something, and He led me there, and I was like, "Ooh, that's good."
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I grew up as a natural introvert,
Yeah.
absolutely terrified of public speaking. I talked about how I used Toastmasters to help me overcome that, and once I overcame that, I understood my calling, and I knew that it's like, as long as I have a voice, it's so important that I use my voice.
Mm-hmm.
As a software developer, like, I'm great at what I do, but most times as a software developer, I'm not using my voice, right? I'm just coding, developing applications, and that's good. But there's so much power in our voice. And I'm like,
Yeah.
as long as God has given me the ability to speak, I've got to be willing to do this. And then this verse here is so important to me because growing up, I learned from my grandpa Joe the importance of serving others. And he would tell me, Michael, you have to make serving part of who you are. And so I did that, which is part of how I landed my position with the Maxwell team, because I was just serving people for free, adding value to some coaches, and other people heard about it. And it was like, hey, this guy's great at what he does, and he's doing it for free. Let's bring him on a team so he can help a larger audience.
Yeah.
But it's just all a part of that serving attitude that I have. And I've been able to pass that on to my kids. And so they're in serving roles now at our church. And it's just so important. It's like just to get the word out there. Because we're in a time now where it's like there's a lot of noise going around, but people really aren't using their voice and really sharing their ideas, their opinions with the world. I mean, there's a lot of people are hiding behind keyboards, and with my technology background, that's my natural state, but I don't want to do that. I want to
Mm-hmm.
get my voice out there and help change lives.
That is beautiful. I'm telling you, it kept me up when I saw your answer to that question. And I felt this very much the same way. First off, I mean, this podcast was birthed out of me just writing. At first, it was just a blog.
Mm,
And it, in the middle of the pandemic, it was right when there was a lot of, killings like George Floyd and all the things
mm,
that were happening. And I mix, so I mix with, black and white. And I was seeing so much happen on social media between my families. And so
mm.
I just felt God saying, like, you need to tell people how you feel. And I was like, I'm not the type of person, go on Facebook and tell people, how I feel. And so I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter just thanking my dad, who's a white,
Mm.
guy, for showing up and supporting his black child the way that he did. And it took off. I mean, it took off and opened up doors I didn't think would open up. And slowly people were like, we want to hear your voice a little bit more often. And so I did that, and then kind of took a pause, because I was like, Lord, certainly this is not what you want me to do. Certainly I misunderstood it. Maybe it's teaching, maybe. And so then we came back with the podcast, and Yeah, I made a vow to God that, Lord, if there is something that you want me to share, that I'm not going to hesitate for that. That it doesn't have to be, me speaking on the Grammy stage or me being on
Hmm.
BET Awards, giving a sermon or something, but that I could just use my voice. If I'm going to be on these social media internet streets, then I might as well uplift, inspire, and, share my voice. So I
Yes.
really, 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 really loved that. And I think that is extremely powerful.
And I tell you, like, it doesn't matter how many people hear it, right? It could be that one person, because you just never know who you're going to inspire with your words.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Well, I am inspired today
Mhm.
by your words. Truly, I am
Thank you.
so honored for this, and I really, really hope that we stay in contact. I will for
Yes.
sure. If you write another book, and I might be speaking it in the atmosphere, but I will be getting it.
All right.
But I want to give you this opportunity. That's the cash flow model, right? Hey, you got me.
Yes,
But I want to
yes.
give you this opportunity to let us know how we can find you. Let us know how we can stay in contact with you, where we can find your wonderful book that I have here.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and give you that time now.
Yeah, so my website is michaelpopetraining.com. You can always find me on there. You can find me on social media at Michael J. Pope Jr. on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Very easy to find. Then also, my book is on Amazon. So I love you to go on Amazon, purchase the book, leave a review. Um, Definitely enjoy it. And what I tell people, I'll do a lot of free workshops. So one of my most popular workshops that I've done is like lots of Canva workshops, how to use Canva correctly. So
Love
I've done like
Canva.
hour, 2 hour long Canva workshops mixed with some AI workshops as well. And so, yeah, so if I can serve you in any way, please reach out to me. And once again, it's michaelpopetraining.com, where you can learn more about my speaking, coaching, and training opportunities.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Maya, for sharing your Sunday with me.
Absolutely. All right, holy people. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed these nuggets. I hope you have been motivated to, go from being a dreamer to being a doer, to actually, stop making excuses and do all the things. So I want to thank Michael so much. It has truly been an honor to have you. And I want y'all to get his book, okay? The Gadget's Guide to Marketing, because I know that when you get that book and you figure out how you can market yourself and walk in the calling that God has for you, then you will be able to be you, shine bright, and stay holy. And if that's not possible,
Then take it up with God.
take it up with God. Very good. Awesome.